So this class is a self-inquiry class. Let me send Victor this thing so he can jump in here. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to mute you guys, right? And then I'll keep going. If you guys have any questions, that way you know. There's a chat availability in there. If you look at, I don't know if you're on your phone or your laptop, but there's an option here to chat. And if you have any questions as we go along, then feel free to type it in there. And I'll see it pop up, and this way I'll have an idea of what you guys, what you're asking me, so that way I can make sure to remember or write them down, and we can wait, towards the end. After each section that I go through, I'll stop and I'll ask if anybody has any questions, and then we can take it from there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. So today's discussion is going to be about, there are 4 paths of yoga, right? There's Raja Yoga, there's Bhakti Yoga, there's Jnana Yoga, and there's Karma Yoga. And so the 4 different paths. So each path has a specific kind of practice to it, right? So Raja Yoga it has an asana aspect to it. Bhakti Yoga has a devotional aspect to it, and that is, Bhakti Yoga is, Eunice, you've been coming to these, so I've mentioned these before. Bhakti Yoga, devotional yoga, is like singing gospel music, reading scripture, things like that. Then there's Karma Yoga, and that is the yoga of selfless service. So being of service to your community, to your neighbors, so on and so forth. It's committing acts of selflessness, where the end goal is not about what can I get from this. It's all about what can I do for the collective, right? Because when you think about it, when you do something good for someone, that always comes back somehow in your life. It always shows up again in your life, right? And then there's Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is a yoga of self-inquiry. This path of yoga is very deep. This is not that any path is superficial, but to me, it's like peeling an onion. To me, there's different layers of a yoga practice, right? There's the asana, which is the one that we come to typically. That's how we come to yoga, because we want to get on the mat and we want to move. And then eventually, as you go on with this and you become more of a seeker, you become more curious, you start to, ask yourself deep questions. Your practice starts to take a whole different path, a whole different life, I think, right? It gets deeper. And then you start asking deep questions, so now your yoga practice is taking a whole different life, and you decide, you know what, I want to give of myself. How can I do this? I'll go and I'll volunteer at the soup kitchen, or I'll do a collection, or I'll do a fundraiser, or I'll participate in something that is raising funds for something, for a cause, or I will shop for my neighbors. Or even in these times right now, it can be as simple as, let me help my friend breathe on the phone. We were just in a class with Christopher, and he mentioned this, that it can be as simple as a friend calling you because they're panicking right now. They're nervous, they're scared, or they lost someone or something, and they turn to you. Your service can be, let's just take a couple of deep breaths together, because you're giving and you're not concerned about what am I going to get from this. You know what I mean? So, and then Jnana Yoga is, for me, my my own thing, because everybody's different. Everybody feels different about their practice. But for me, jnana yoga is probably the yoga that I love most, because jnana yoga is a practice of asking ourselves deep questions. It's about asking ourselves questions. It's about being honest and looking within. In jnana yoga, there's nothing external. Nothing. Every question you ask, I can promise you, will always lead back to you, to within. Okay. So today, I wanted to touch base on this aspect of yoga, this path, because especially more now than ever, we have an opportunity, and I see this as an opportunity. We have an opportunity to sit with ourselves. We have an opportunity to ask ourselves really difficult questions and be really honest with ourselves, and do it in a way that there is compassion, there's love for ourselves in that whole process. Because typically, when we start to ask ourselves those questions, and I'm sure you'll agree, right? We're all women, we are adults, we've gone through life, we have experiences. We are really good, and we have been very good at talking about ourselves in a very bad way, and not believing in who we are, and and blaming ourselves, carrying guilt, doing all these things to ourselves in a very brutal way, in a way that isn't conducive to what we're really trying to do. Because at the end of it all, when you really think about it, when you really roll with yourself, all of us, in our path, what we're always trying to do is just find an answer as to why, or we all want to feel loved. We all want to be loved. We all want that for ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with it. Absolutely not. Jnana yoga requires you to love yourself more than you ever have. And that's hard. That can be very difficult for a lot of people. It was very difficult for me. You know, I lived pretty much my entire life in self-loathing, layered by other things, layered by relationships, layered by clubs, layered by hanging out, layered by letting the noise outside of me get so loud that there was no way I was going to hear those thoughts that I just didn't want to think about, because these were deep questions that at that time in my life, I know now, I wasn't prepared to answer. Not at all. Because those were ugly truths. You guys have heard of that expression, ugly truths?
Yeah.
Or hard truths?
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, and as we go on through life, we're trying to practice jnana yoga. We just don't know that we're trying to do that. You know, for us, it's layered as something else. So I wanted to begin introducing this practice of jnana yoga, of self-inquiry, and some meditations that, you know, we can sit with. We'll go through a practice today. And, you know, it's open. This isn't concrete. I don't think anything is ever really concrete other than we're born here and then we go. Right? Anything outside of that changes, and drastically. So what we go through today, take what you feel is relevant, because that's what happens most times, depending on what path and where we are in our life right now, where we are in our journey. Take what is good for you now, write it down, write your notes, you know, have a very open mind. What is going to fit into those spaces in your life now are going to land, and what is not right now, maybe later. Okay, so we're going to begin, and this is the practice of self-inquiry, and it's about asking a question: Who am I? And it's about breaking the habit of being yourself. That's hard. We're about to open up some doors about habits. And this is why jnana yoga requires a person to have some type of other yoga practice to begin with. What we're going to discuss, I promise you at some point or another during your practices, something here is going to come up and you're going to make a connection. And that's when for me, that's when I felt like I found yoga. This is what yoga is. It's not about just inhale, exhale, up, left, right, back. It's about inhale, exhale, use my breath. Why am I holding my breath right now? Why am I pissed off that I can't look the way that person looks? This is all, when I started going through this process, I realized where ego came into play, where how I spoke to myself with harm, all of this came into play. So this is why for me, and I hope for you, it opens something beautiful in your life. All right, so the Vedanta philosophy says that we need to solve our problems from a different level of consciousness than the one we are familiar with. It is about seeing our own self and our environment differently. To do so, we need to think deeply and endeavor to distinguish between what is unchanging and what is changing. Something changing is something unchanging is real. Something changing is illusionary. Remember that. It may not make any sense right now, but I'm going to say it again. Something that does not change is real. Something that is constantly changing is illusion. Okay? This is the Vedanta philosophy. To get to the unchanging, we need to question what we believe about ourselves and our perception of the universe we see around us to be true. The whole meditation exercise is about asking ourselves, who am I? And breaking down the false identifications. You do not know who you are, but you know who you are not. Does that make sense? You do not know who you are, but you know who you are not. Okay, this is the perspective of jnana yoga. It's taking what you think and turning it around. Okay, and breaking down. After breaking down the false identifications, what remains is the I. By doing so, we recover the self and feel stronger and happier because we're getting closer to who we truly really are. We free ourselves from sufferings and fears resulting from our attachment to the false self. We realize it is a habit we carry for a long time. Therefore, the meditation needs to continue over time. We become more and more detached. It takes strength and sharp intellect to do so. So the more we meditate on who am I, the more we become detached from who we are not, right? And we become closer to who we really are. Coming back to that place of bliss. Okay? Our habitual minds keep reproducing the past illusions. First, do you guys have any questions on what I just read?
No.
No? Okay. So our habitual minds keep reproducing past illusions. Now, this is why we always come to believe what we come to believe. This is that part of, when I talk about conditioning, conditioned, right? So this is where that has a lot to do with it. So things are not the way we think them to be. The reality we see is the reality of our mind's projections. There's a classical story of a snake and a rope that illustrates well this situation. This is the story. In the darkness, a person saw a snake and jumped in fright. Someone who's not afraid of the snake brought light to shine upon the snake. And under the light, it turns out that it's a simple and innocent rope. But see, the thing is, these people went in, right? And because our minds are trained to believe, you see that maybe coiled up in that shape is a snake. So imagine that you're walking with someone in a park and you come upon what looks like a snake. What's the first reaction? Right? Of course. Because our minds are conditioned to believe nothing else, and that's a snake. But upon not reacting that way, upon knowing the truth, upon knowing that things can be illusionary and there could be another explanation, you shine the light on it and it's a rope. All of that is illusion. All of that is the mind reproducing past illusions. Right? That's a simple example, right? It says, under the light, it turns out that it is a simple and innocent rope. The rope looks like the snake, but it is not the snake. The rope did not become a snake, and the snake did not become a rope. All what is happening is in the mind. The mind has already the fears of snakes, therefore projected snake. One's thought and memory is being superimposed upon the truth. In the same manner, in the darkness of our spiritual ignorance, we keep seeing scary and stressful things, and we react in fear. When we dare to inquire, the knowledge sets us free as we see things as they are and not what we imagine them to be. Right? There's a level of freedom, right? When you know that you're seeing the truth, you're in the truth, you know the truth, even though at times it may be painful, it may be shocking, it may make you angry, right, of knowing this truth. But once you detach from the emotional part of it and you stand in the truth of I am seeing this truth, it becomes freedom. Because I'm sure that behind that, there's things that now you can let go of easily because you're standing in the truth. And at first, the truth can be painful, it can be shocking, it can make you angry, it can be confusing, right? But once you get past all of that and you go through this process of releasing the emotion, that comes with it, and you stand in the truth, there's a level of freedom, and that's sometimes I think that that's the part that we forget sometimes, especially when we're on a journey of healing or when we're on a journey of trying to figure out what to do in our lives because something isn't working. I'm sitting in a square and there's a round peg trying to get, and it doesn't fit. What has to change here? What do I need to look at? Right? So why do we keep seeing the same thing? In order to really be free, we have to revisit these past illusions, personal and collective, in order to wake up. Revisiting our scares and our fears and see them for what they really are, not real, in our mind, and becoming familiar with our mind patterns. This helps us to recognize them. Okay, so following a train of thought, it took me about 6 years of therapy to finally realize I had a pattern to my behavior. I had a pattern. It took me years of bad relationships, took me years of arguing and fighting to realize I do have a pattern. What's the pattern? And that's what this is talking about. When you start to pay attention to your own behavior, your own patterns, it helps you to recognize this. It helps you to recognize a lot of things. It's a wake-up call. Okay? We keep seeing the snake, but also we become stronger with time, as the memory of a rope becomes more and more established, and we can transcend the vision of snake to see the rope. Our fears resulting from our weakness becomes more and more known, and we become more and more stronger. Self-inquiry helps us do this. And you have any questions?
No.
No?
No.
How to unveil the self and be free from the habit of being ourselves. Right? This is where it can get a little tricky, because this requires us to have a different, I'm not going to say different, but I'm just going to say a really open mind, because this is where the work gets, tricky. And I'm sure some of these you might have heard, some never. Again, open mind. All right. So how do we unveil? How do we start breaking these habits of being who we've always been? Because I'm 49 years old, and the only person I've ever known myself to be is Carolyn, right? First, you're not the body. That's the biggest attachment we have, is to this, the body. Upon asking the first question, who am I? The first answer is, I am the body, right? Because that's what we identify with immediately. Who am I? I'm Carolyn. I'm this woman, and I'm a female. Like I am identifying with the physical. We all do it, right? That's the first piece of the work, is you are not the body. Okay? The body is made of the 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. We are born with our constitution. And this is where the Ayurveda, this is what they talk about, constitutions. We are born with our constitutions, and there are 3 types according to Ayurveda, the ancient science of medicine. You can be solid, earthy, supportive and steady, made of earth and water. You can be fiery, sharp, active, inquisitive, made of fire. You can be quick, sensitive, and moving like air in space. So these are the 5 elements within those 3 constitutions. And this is how Ayurvedic medicine looks at us, looks at ourselves. This is how we look at ourselves. The body constitution gives the predisposition to think and be this way or that way. We are not seeing the same thing as our constitution veils to us. However, whatever constitution or body type we are, the body is born, it grows, it decays, and it dies in due time. It is not meant to be forever. It is not ourselves, as it keeps changing. Remember what I said at the very beginning? What is constantly changing is illusionary, and what does not change stays the same, is real. Okay? We line up different photos of ourselves at different times in our lives, from being a baby toddler to an adolescent to a grown-up, an adult, and photos of ourselves in our 30s, 40s, 50s, right? The body looks totally different in size, shape, weight, and yet we point out to each photo and recognize the same me, exclaiming, this is me, this is me. Think about this. There's a me in that is not in that body. The body is our instrument in our journey, not ourselves. Mistaken identity with the body gives fears and anxieties, especially the fear of death. This is why we're so afraid to die. Because we truly believe that when we die, we die. We're done. It stops. That's it. Right? But we don't. In so many ways, it's relevant to us, but we really don't look at that. because we identify with the physical, because we believe I am this body, right? But when you look at examples of like what I just gave you, line up photos of yourself. And in each one you say, yeah, that's me, but the me is sitting here. So how is the me in there? How's the me still there when the me is here now? You know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm saying. Jnana yoga, self-inquiry is deep. These are questions where you're like, yeah. And this is my favorite part of yoga, quite frankly. Okay. So the body is our instrument in our journey, and it is not ourselves. It is mistaken identity with the body that gives fears and anxieties, especially the fear of death, right? Remember, the body journey is a chapter in the book of our lives, and it's not the whole story. Okay, so I want you to sit down for a moment, close your eyes. We're going to go through, I'm going to repeat, I'm going to say some words to you, and I just want you to sit with it. Again, don't attach yourself to anything you hear. I just want you to hear. Okay, relax your body. Find your steady breath here and just relax. There's nothing to do but just hear the words. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. I am not my gender, male nor female. I am not my race, black, white, or yellow. I am not my age, young, old, or older. I am not my physical beauty or appearance. I am the driver of this body vehicle. I am not the color or shape of the vehicle. I am not my muscles, my bones, my lungs, my heart, my arms, and my legs, my nose, tongue, eyes, skin, ears. I am the driver of this body vehicle, and these organs and limbs are my instruments. I am the subject, and these are the objects. I am consciousness and not the sum of body parts. Continue breathing. Slowly open your eyes. Remember that detachment towards the body, and do not overly worry about it as yourself, but rather as the caretaker of an instrument that gives you strength and health. Free you from the fear of death, which is paralyzing in this time of this virus threat. Okay? I'm going to do all this stuff. This is one part of a meditation that you can sit with, and you can write it over and over, become familiar with it, and then say it to yourself every so often. Right? So we've talked about the first level of identification, right? This is the second. The second identification is with the prana, life force, and we've talked about this before, Eunice, in other philosophy classes. So the prana energizes the body and gives it life. Prana is changing, sometimes low, sometimes high, sometimes it's balanced, sometimes it's unbalanced. Prana comes with the air we breathe. It's not the air we breathe. It comes with the air we breathe. The earth, water, fire, and etheric space. Okay. We can identify with what we feel, energetic or tired, strong or sick, blocked or flowing, acting and enjoying, moving here and there or staying still and shelter in place, but we are not our prana, life force. So be aware to take care of your prana. Do your pranayama to purify and regulate your prana and your emotions. But we are not the prana. Therefore, stay detached from it. Okay. Especially now in these times, because we're all going through these emotional ups and downs. One days where, there are days where, like, I feel personally where I have to force my mind to stay really positive and always look at the good of whatever it is that I'm seeing, hearing, feeling, and going through in the moment, right? And it becomes, oh, there's a nice little bumblebee in here. It's easy to do so. I swear, I feel like that's my mom, one of these women, because they always talked about bumblebees from when I was young. So it's just the spiritual connection. Yeah, so that totally distracted me. Uh, it's huge too. It's like the size of my thumb. What we're talking about, I'm sorry.
Pranayama.
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 Yeah. So practicing your pranayama. We're going through these things where it's up and down, but that's not who we are. Right? These are all things that we're going through. So being mindful of how you're spending your prana. You could always look at prana as money. Prana is the energy. So it's you can think of it as money or as a bank. And I always want to have prana in my bank because life, and especially now, so I have to be careful how I spend that energy, how I spend that time. Okay. The third identification is with our own minds and our emotions, and you'll see that one plays into the other. Right. So the who am I? I am worried, angry, fearful, joyful, sad, and grieving. This is what a lot of us collectively, right, are going through, right? And to me, that's kind of an oxymoron sentence, but because collectively, it's all one. We're all one, and we are all going through this. So you can really think of it very much on a collective level. Our states of mind and emotions kidnapped our identity, right? Because as soon as this thing started, I know I could speak for myself when I can honestly say that I think within the first week of closing the studio, I think that I responded from a place of trauma survival. I immediately went into, how do I make it work? How do I keep this going? What do I need to do? Like this. And I didn't realize that until maybe last week when it dawned on me that I was like, I don't remember a lot about that first week. And that was the first red flag. When I don't remember things, especially in a time of frenzy, in a time of, I can tell you 100% that I know that if that happens to me, I went into a state of survival. Right. And this is a behavior that I've learned because my childhood, right? Abuse, abusive relationships, self-abuse. So all these things, my conditioning in my life has caused me to learn how to go from everything is okay to survival mode in less than a split second if need be, right? And for many people, that's great because I could speak again for myself that when I get into that mode, I don't get emotional. I am on task because there are things that have to get done, right? But the sacrifice to that is I lose my memory of what's happening. And that lets me know that I went through some serious emotional trauma very quickly in that moment of whatever changed. And that's a block. So then in order for me to now go back and fix that, that has to come up in my head of, what happened? And that's where I realized, oh, okay. I remember when this happened to me, that's what I did. And when this happened to me, that's what I did. So obviously this major global thing happened. And it caused me, I had to change my whole everything, not just me, but everybody, right? I had to close the studio and I had to figure out how I'm going to continue to be of service to the students of the studio. How am I going to continue sharing the practice with them? How am I going to continue to keep the members? Honestly, right? Because I have to pay rent in the studio. How am I gonna bring them good content? What am I gonna bring them? Because this can't be bullshit. This can't be superficial. This, not that it was before, but now I had to amp it up because now it's virtual. Now I have to give you virtually and hope that you grab it virtually. It's different. It's a different space.
Mm-hmm.
Same process, different space. So as a teacher, a responsible teacher, and as a yogi, as a businesswoman, I had to really quit. And I can tell you that first week, I don't remember half of what I did. I saw some videos recently on YouTube that I did, that I went live explaining certain things, and I was like, I don't even remember that. And I knew, wow, that was a response from trauma. So my work now is to now work with that and try to be more aware so that next time I don't react that way. I don't respond that way. I can remember the things that I did. And that means I have to be present. So I have to work on that, right? So we lose ourselves in our emotions and become what we feel. The senses are connected to what we feel, and it keeps us revolving between pleasures and pains. They set the stage for the minds and emotions to play its comedies or dramas, but comedy turns into drama and drama turns into comedy. Snake turns into the rope and the rope turns into snake. Nevertheless, the sense of I is lost. Drown in the emotions of all of our relationships, which makes us feel ups and downs, happy, unhappy, loved, separated. Stay still. Turn within. Happiness is in. Love is already there. We have to learn how to calm down. We have to learn how to detach. Just like I was saying, in that moment, detach myself from that, because I am not the mind and I am not the emotion. And that's what we always have to remember when we start to become attached to our emotions because of a situation. My husband didn't do this and it pisses me off, right? You have to become detached from that emotion, because you're going to create a problem if you stay attached to it. Once you become attached to it, then you can really look at it for what it really is. Is it really a situation that requires you to get upset about? And then the other questions come. Is this the kind of situation that I can talk about with my partner? And if not, why? That's jnana yoga. No, I can't talk to my husband. That's easy for some of us to say, right? But what's harder for us to ask the question, why do I feel like I cannot talk with my husband? Because that's not my husband's problem. That's my problem. It's my issue. This is what jnana yoga is. Jnana yoga is asking questions of the external to then have to really turn around and look internally for the answer. Because the answer lies within us. It's not outside, it's inside. Okay? So the fourth level of identification is I am not my ego and intellect. We identify with our ego and we identify with our intellect, right? So I can tell the story of my life over and over again and hundreds of people, thousands of people, to my children, my grandchildren, yet I am not my story. Even though I might be attached to it, my story, even well rehearsed, from lifetime to lifetime, generation to generation, keeps changing. Go back to the very beginning of this discussion. What doesn't change and what does change, right? As my lessons keep changing, I keep acting out what I think myself to be, my level of consciousness, my level of self-awareness, my level of being the silent witness to myself. This is self-study. My understanding of who am I, separated or connected, who am I isolated or put together, who am I alone or involved, who am I unstable, stable, who am I worthy, unworthy, proud of accomplishments, better or worse, achiever, intelligent or failure. My level of self-knowledge is changing. Therefore, it is not me, the unchanging, because the I never changes. Everything else does. The I never changes. This is why it's hard. It's hard to grasp it, but give yourself time, right? Truly, there is something beyond the ego stories that cannot be described. This is who I am, the background of things, the movie screen on which the movie plays, stories play, and yet unaffected, detached witness I am. It's like looking at a movie screen. You can play a whole movie of your life, right? But is that you? Or is the I, the person, is the I there sitting watching the me? It gets a little right? Because I can see Rosa like It gets a little yeah, it does. It gets a little challenging, but
it's tricky, yeah.
Very tricky. And in order for you to see clearly, see it, you really have to start with that, with those questions of who am I? And am I this body? Am I the one that cooks in the kitchen? Am I the one that has this job? Or is there more to me than I can even possibly fathom? It's the soul, right? It's that. And that's deep. That's deep. Okay, the calming of the mind and the ego, the realization of the silent witness, the observer of my thoughts, the consciousness awareness itself makes I feel strong. I found myself and not losing myself. When you find yourself, you don't lose yourself. When I detach myself from my stories and I stop justifying myself, I am not my ego. What does our ego tell us? You know, as on my perspective, on my end, my ego says, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. My ego says, I have two businesses. My ego says, I am a teacher. My ego says, I am a mother, right? That's ego. I participated. This is how I look at it. I've participated in all those things because that's been my journey. My journey was to be a mother, right? My journey was to bring forth 4 lives in this time, in my experience, my lifetime during this experience. But I'm not a mother. I'm a daughter, but I am not a daughter. There's a lot more to me than all of these things that I've done. There's a lot more to you than all of these things that you've done, all of these accomplishments, all of the relationships, all of the illusions. We are past that. We're beyond that. All of that stuff, it's an onion. And once we start peeling all these layers off, we get to the root. We get to the root of who we are, and we understand it a whole lot better. So, and then the 5th level of identification it's a little bit more subtle. And as far as the I is conditioned, attached, your sense of purpose is distorted. So long as we continue with our attachments to our bodies, our attachments to our egos and our intellect, the purpose of our purpose is distorted. And then you'll realize the purpose of your birth, of your journey from karma to dharma. Okay? And as blissful and happy you will feel, you will come into that place and space where you will no longer have fear. You know, detachment. This is why I said earlier, when you begin to let go, when you begin to sit in your truth, be in your truth, it can be painful at the beginning because there's things attached to that, right? But once you realize, wait a minute, this, you know what? No, this wasn't right for me. Freedom comes. Enlightenment comes, even in your body. How many times have we not been in a situation in our lives, right, where we feel like our shoulders are so weighed down with this invisible weight, this subtle weight? And when we start to, you know, as some people might put it, get tired of being tired, or tired of being abused, or just tired, and you just start letting that stuff go physically, don't you feel like, how
Yeah.
many times have we not gone through that? That's what we mean when we say there's a big freedom that comes with sitting in the truth, even if it's an ugly truth. Even if it's an ugly truth about ourselves, and it will be an ugly truth about ourselves, because again, we'll ask the question, put it out externally. Eventually, that comes right back around, and we're going to have to sit with ourselves and look at it from an internal perspective, because the answer is there within us. When you come to this place of detachment, detaching from the physical, detaching from the body, detaching from your thoughts, detaching from what you believe yourself to be, you come into a place of happiness. You come into a place of bliss. You come into a place where you release fear. You won't feel separated from people. You won't have doubt. Your doubts will start to diminish themselves because you're sitting in the truth. You're no longer looking at what's an illusion. You're looking at what's real. And when you're looking at what's real, there's no doubt. It's gone. You'll look at things with no more agenda. There'll be no need for it. And you will sit in that I am consciousness. Because that's what consciousness is. I am bliss. I am I. Okay? I am free. That's the best one for me. I am free. Because when you get to that point, when you get to start, even take a peek at who you really are, oh my God, you're going to want more. You're going to want more. And some people will become afraid. Just know that it's okay to be afraid. It's an emotion, feels an emotion. And as long as you detach yourself from it, you're going to keep wanting to practice and keep on that search. Okay. And so we're going to talk about what meditation is, right? Meditation is seeing through the illusions of the self and others, turning within and solving our problems from a different level of consciousness. It can only get better. We are not losing anything. We're only gaining in strength and courage to face our lives by being ourselves. This meditation and self-inquiry are forced upon ourselves. In this time of crisis, when all established habits are being questioned and reinvented, the more the veils are thinned, the happier and steadier we become. The more this world will come to peace. And as we understand that myself and yourself are one. Unity and diversity. Celebrate our interdependence and let go of our fears. Clinging to the past will project into the future. Oh, that's so important to know and understand, and keep it right here. Now back here, right here. When we cling to the past, when we cling to our past traumas, our pains, our scares, our frights, and our fears, that you project that into everything. We project it into everything we do in the future. There's only one truth. There is not your truth and my truth, because both are only reflections. There is only one sun, reflected on many surfaces. Reflected on a rock surface, the light shines very little. You reflect it in the water, it becomes distorted with the waves. Reflected on wood surface, the light dims and stable. Reflected on a shiny mirror, the light is bright and the image is very sharp. There is only one consciousness, the same in all beings, whether mineral, animal, human, superhuman. We are one. The differences are external, but the essence is one. We do not know the truth and we act out of ignorance. Do you believe that to be true?
Yeah.
I do. Absolutely. Forgetting the big picture, forgetting to do self-inquiry. And this is how we wind up acting out of ignorance. Right? This is what I'm listing to you pretty much, is forgetting the bigger picture, forgetting to do self-inquiry, forgetting to search for the truth, forgetting our purpose. We become greedy, senseless, abusive towards animals and nature. We don't think, don't respect, constantly creating pains to others for our own pleasures. This is the time, this time is the time we need to wake up and turn inward, question our ways, cease to blame, but taking responsibility. Stop the killing of innocent animals, their abuse and torture, become vegetarians. Stop wasting of resources and the appropriations of the planet. Stay still and meditate. Everything you want is here and now. We are waves of the same ocean. We are clay, becoming different ugly pots and beautiful vases. We are gold, turning into different shapes and forms of ornaments. We are spirit and consciousness in the guise of different classes of men. It is one thing that I've learned during this time, is that coronavirus is an equalizer. It affects the rich, it affects the poor, the statesman, the beggar, all the same. Whatever you are, wherever you are. Start your self-inquiry. Listen to the teachings of the scriptures, the wise. Even if you cannot understand completely, try. This is a time for us to practice this meditation, to wake up and learn what you can, to remember who you are, to remember yourself. Stay away from past and stay away from the future. Be in the moment of the present and see the essence and not the manifestations. Respect the difference. Respect the differences as it is in all one essence. Come back to unconditional love of yourself and of others. The love and the truth will always set you free. It's not easy, difficult, it's challenging. You may get angry at yourself. You may dislike yourself a little bit. But know and understand that when you stop the bullshit, and this is not only for now, because right now in this time of crisis, we need this. We have the time for it. Because life has always, and it's something that I've always talked about in a lot of my classes, is we never have the time to sit down and just be. Right, Rosa? I see you.
Yes.
That's why I know, right? I always say that in Shavasana, and I always say that in the beginning or in the end of the class. You know, we're so busy running here, running there, doing this and doing that, and the kids and the job and the husband and the car and the business and the what's the excuse now?
Yeah.
None. Not even for me. None. In this time, yeah, I've had to be very aware because it's touched a little close to home, and I'm grateful that it hasn't hit close to home, but it's come close enough where I felt it. And there were days when I woke up and I was feeling like we are going to get through this no matter what happens. We're going to be fine. Let's just stay positive. And, rah, rah, rah. I've spent hours in meditation at home by myself as Victor's working, praying and chanting Om Namo Narayanaya for hours. And then there are days where I wake up and I don't feel so okay. I don't feel like, oh my God. And only because I'm hearing and I'm seeing, all that's going on. And we're all going through that, right? But we still have to sit here and ask ourselves, all right, all this time I've been doing this and this and that, and I know that it wasn't good for me. Why do I do that? What is it that I'm trying to avoid looking at that's going to hurt my feelings? Because the shit's going to hurt when I realize the freaking truth, And that's self-inquiry. You're practicing yoga when you do that, And you take out a pen and a pad. That's something that I've always done. Write it down. If I show you my journals and oh my gosh, and this is constant. I think this is why my jnana yoga practice is what it is, because I've lived the kind of life that I can write a few books about, and it's no different from a lot of other people's stories. No, it's a story, and I've come to see that. Even now, this is a story. It's going to be in the past. I just said that sentence. That sentence is already in the past. This is how I look at life. This is how self-inquiry has helped me to stay in the present. Sometimes I get off the path. I'm a spirit having a human experience and I will forget, but I always come back, and rather quickly, luckily, rather quickly. But it takes training, and it takes being honest with myself. It takes honest being with myself about me and about my partner, my business, everything around me, and you always have to ask yourself that question. And that's something that I've learned. When I ask myself a question and the immediate feeling is pain or sadness or hurt, I've learned to not walk away from that question and say, no, you know what? Why? I've actually sat in front of a mirror. Why does it hurt you so much? Why does it hurt you so much that your mother never gave you a hug, or you don't remember that your mother said, I love you? And that always turns back to me, because for me, it's, I always felt empty. Why did you feel empty? And there goes the deep part of it. There goes the part where it comes back, and that will help you heal. It will help you get past the situation. So when you start asking yourself questions, when you start this self-inquiry journey, and you ask yourself a question that immediately gives you an emotional response of pain or hurt or anger, I invite you to not walk away from that question so quickly. Begin to peel the layer. Get back to yourself. This is our work more now than ever, because when we finish this, we're not going back to how things were. Life as we knew it has changed. So now it may be sad and it's tragedy, because it is. But look at it from that perspective, and you'll see that it'll be a ray of light that says, you know what, I have a chance to start different, because my life is going to be different. All of our lives are going to be different. So how can I now incorporate positive change that's going to work for my new life? Because we all have a whole new life after this. We've already begun. Do you guys have any questions?
No. No questions.
No. Did you guys understand more or less? I want to know that if, I guess what I'm asking is this. when I shut this off, have I given you something to think about? Have I
For sure.
given you
Yeah.
something that, God forbid, we never see each other again, is going to make a difference in your life that you feel you carry with you?
Yeah,
Yes.
it does. Yep, it does.
Okay, so
I
that's
just wanted to share also, Karen, like at work, right? We do have this when we have like some issues. So we do like the 5 whys, right? So until you peel the layer of the root cause of what the issue is. And then I've used that also for myself. So if, let's say, for example, I feel offended, right? I always try, why did I feel offended until I go to the bottom of it, which normally is about my ego, right? So yeah, so that's that's a very helpful, and all of these things that you said is actually just like all coming together.
good. Yeah, the ego it's part of the onion.
Yeah,
When you start this peeling process, it doesn't. I understand even more, like on the physical level, of why we cry when we peel an onion because
yeah,
there's a lot there.
and it's liberating. It's very liberating.
And very much so, it's liberating because listen, I had this thing back in the day that, like, my friend, my old best friend, he used to call me. He's like, "What's up, girl? What you doing?" And I'm like, "I am deep in the trenches, honey." And he would say, "Oh, really? Okay, call me when you're done." And what that meant, he knew what I meant by that. And what I meant by that was, I am deep in the trenches of my own fucking ugly truths, and I'm dealing with my own shit right now. So
Yeah,
no, I don't have time to talk to you. That was
yeah,
my way of telling my friends, the people who knew me. That was my way of letting them know I'm going through some stuff right now, and I don't have
yeah,
the capacity or the space for anything else. I have to deal with this situation. I'm looking at myself right now. That's how I'm deep. I used to tell them that I used to take, I have mud right here on my face in the situation, and they would laugh because they could just imagine me with black marks on my face taking through the mud, right? But they understood what that meant. And that meant I'm doing self inquiry. I'm putting
yeah,
myself in check. I'm calling my own bullshit out. I'm putting a mirror to myself. Because there's no way that I'll be able to be honest with my best friend, my children, anybody that I love, if I keep lying to myself. I,
yeah. That's true.
aha moment for me in my 30s was like, no, I have to be real with me first before I can be honest with the people that I love. Because if I keep bullshitting myself, I'm bullshitting
Mm,
everybody else, and that's not who I am. And that
yeah.
was like the beginning, the awakening for me to keep looking and asking. Okay, so
It's, yeah, especially at this time right now, right? When we have the time to ourselves, but we need to make use of that because social media, Netflix, and all that, it could be numbing, right? We're numbing that, the truth. When we say that, when you ask those questions and then you don't want the answer, then you go to social media, just keep on scrolling or watch Netflix and all that just so that you can avoid. For me, I think, personally, that's sometimes what I do.
yeah, honestly, I think we all do that because we don't want to
Yeah.
look at it. We don't want to look. We know
Mhm.
it's a hard question. No,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
to tell us this is something you really need to think about. We know this. We have. That's
yeah,
why this phrase of teacher and guru and all that. Like for me, okay, guru, teacher, but we have that already.
yeah.
It's us. We have our own teacher.
Mm,
We just don't listen to that teacher. We prefer to listen to an outside teacher first before we sit with the guru within,
mhm.
because we all have that teacher inside of us. We just in life conditioning, and we're really good at going, no, I don't want to look at that right now, so I'm gonna go shopping. No, I don't want to look at that right now, so my son, yeah. No, I don't want. No, at some point, if you ever really want to connect with who you really are and be happy and feel a level of freedom, because really it is truly freeing, you have to go back. You have to ask those hard questions. Right? So let's end here. Let's come to our seat, into a nice tall spine, relaxing your hands on your lap again, placing your right hand into the palm of your left, thumbs to touch, relaxing the shoulders. Begin to deepen your breath and just relax your body. allowing the breath to flow throughout your body freely, bringing a beautiful sense of calm, sense of awareness. Bring your inner gaze to that point in between your eyebrows, your third eye chakra, your intuition. This is where I feel the guru within resides. Here, just take a moment to thank yourself for coming to your mat today, to unlocking a new door to the journey of the self. Give yourself thanks for having an open mind and an open heart. Bringing your palms together in front of heart center. Let's end the class with the chant of Om. Inhale deeply into the belly. Hold at the top. Om. Bowing your head gently, chin towards your chest in honor of the God within. Thank you so much, Yoginis, for joining me today for this beautiful philosophy class on self-inquiry or jhana yoga. My hope and prayer is that this class has given you something that will last a lifetime, that it will guide you and support you in a new level of freedom and a new opportunity to come closer to who you truly are, which is bliss absolute. Om Namah Sivaya. Namaste. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So I'll be sending you guys that literature. I'm going to work on the structure of it because if I send it to you, you'll laugh. But I will send it to you in the email so you can have it, read through it again, and feel free to jot notes. And if you do have any questions later on, send me an email, okay?
Okay.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you
good
so
one.
much.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.